A harmonious salutation to you. How to use your inner AI. It's quite common nowadays to defer your thoughts or ideas to an AI like ChatGPT, Gemini, or whatever, right? You think to yourself, well, those are experts, so they should know to do things better than I do, or they are good enough to do things that I would take too much time to do, right? Well, you should know that you have inside yourself an AI infinitely much more powerful, with infinitely much more context about yourself that those AIs don't have, and it's, by the way, why most of them are free, so they can get your data. And, well, you should know how to use it. That's what I'm here for. So first things first, this AI, this internal AI that you have, it is accessible anytime in pretty much any context. The only problem is that sometimes you may be in certain conditions that will make it harder for you to understand if it's really the AI talking or something else. Okay? So first thing is to make sure that you are capable of discerning this AI, okay? This internal intelligence of yours. Now, for that, you should become, first of all, aware of yourself. So let's divide ourselves in 4 parts, okay? 4 elements. First one, pretty obvious, the body, Earth. So how aware are you of your body? For example, you're probably watching this video and you didn't notice your feet. You weren't aware of it, of the feet, maybe inside or outside shoes. Are you aware, for example, of your legs, of the back of your head, and so on and so forth? So all the parts of your body. Obviously, you don't necessarily need to be aware of them all the time, but the less you practice being aware, the less you are aware. So doing things like yoga or Tai Chi or similar things would help you become more aware. Know where parts of your body are and be able to control them even. Parts of your body that maybe you didn't even know you are in control. This will start giving you context. Second part, let's say, that we can consider would be the emotions. So we can say that's the water. So if the body is earth, emotions would be water. Again, how aware are you of your emotions? Are you just reacting to things? So like, let's say you become angry for whatever reason. You don't even notice that you're angry, and then you start doing things reactively, not even understanding that you're doing them out of anger, for example. So again, for this, you need to pay more attention, meditate more. Because when you meditate, you're zooming out of the picture and you're getting hold of the car again and saying, okay, wait a second. Yeah, sure, I got angry because of this. Now let's see what I'll do. And then you can start naming things better even, because you're zoomed out. You cannot see things clearly when you're in the middle of them, you know? So you get out, now you can understand them better. Start labeling them and so on and so forth. Next, very similarly, you have the thoughts, which would be the air. Same concept. Are you aware of the thoughts that you are generating, that are going through your mind? You don't need to be fixated on them, just like the emotions, but are you aware? Do you notice them? Do you notice when they come, how they come, where they lead you to, and so on? For that, meditation. Now, last element would be fire, which in this case would be your imagination. What are the images that you are creating when you're doing things? For example, whenever you're trying to drive a car or work or go to sleep, like your dreams, for example. How aware are you of them? Not only the dreams, but all those images that are generated. How clearly can you control them even? And things of sorts. So first of all, becoming aware of all of those things, okay? Now, we could say that there are 3 versions of ourselves. So those are the 4 compartments, let's say, but there are three, those 4 compartments can be multiplied by 3. So we have 3 of them. So the first one would be the past self, then the current self, and the future self. This AI that we are talking about can work on any of them and any of the 4 layers as well, okay? But again, you need to be more in touch with those 2 versions, which usually we weren't. So the past version of ourselves and the future version of ourselves. So the past version, you can, for example, start journaling. You can start trying to remember things, and you notice something which is very funny about memories, is that they're not necessarily true, and they're much more malleable than we think they are. If you try remembering something today, maybe a week from now, a year from now, if you note down how you remembered it, not only the thoughts, but like the images that you had, the emotions that you had, and so on and so forth, you're going to notice that they're gonna be changed over time. So again, how well are you in touch with that past version of you, not being fixated, because it doesn't have to be, like I just told you, the memories are malleable, but how well do you know it? Okay? And the future self, the same. How much are you projecting yourself into the future, and how well are you in touch with that version of you? Because, well, first of all, there could be many. There's not just one version, because depending on the things that you do, you could end up in very different places. But one very nice exercise is thinking, well, if I took that route, where would I be right now? You know, when you're presented with multiple options, think to yourself, well, if I take this one, you know, I could lead to this, and that. And only the process of trying to see where you are going to be led to is already interesting, because, see, you're going to filter out things that you think are possible, not necessarily that they will happen or not, but that you think are possible. And you're going to see that sometimes you're going to be limiting yourself for, well, no apparent reason, just because you don't think you are, let's say, deserving or capable or whatever. So again, first idea is to get the context. So you need to be aware of all of this. Then the second idea is simply fetching the information, just like you do with any AI. The same way that you go to any AI app and you ask, hey, you know, I have this headache that started this other day, and so on, so on, so on, and you start asking it for stuff. The same way, go and ask yourself, literally. Better if you can do it in a moment of relaxation, because then again, you can understand more what's going on. So it's more likely that you're going to pay attention and clearly hear and understand, or however it may come to you. For some people, that may be like an internal voice. For some other people, that could be some image, some feeling in the body. Again, infinite ways. Even in the external reality. Maybe you ask something to yourself and you get sent an ad, or a music starts playing. Doesn't matter, okay? This whole thing that you're seeing is still you. Now, the thing is, you need some practice. And the more you do it, the more you're going to create this relationship with this internal you, this internal AI, okay? And you should know that it is not a rational thing. It is not a thing that you create, because again, it's very subtle, the difference. But you will understand when it's something that comes from this AI, you know, this, some people will call it higher self, greater self, whatever. You know, this version of you which knows more, which has the context and has the answers. And when it's just you kind of telling yourself a story, that's kind of different, okay? So again, you should meditate in order to differentiate things. I have a video on how to meditate, by the way. You can search for it. So, all of that being said, you know, what can I ask for? Well, I can give you a story as an example. I had this friend of mine which was looking for a house. They were trying to rent a new home. And, you know, they started trying it out, and for a few months it was kind of a hassle. They were trying and not being able to for many different reasons, and it felt draining, okay? They let it sit for, you know, a week. Didn't do anything. Try to just meditate on, okay, what is it that I'm blocking here? maybe I'm not so clear on what I actually want to be and how I want the house to be, and so on and so on. So instead of crazily doing the same thing over and over and being insane, because if you do the same thing and expect different results, that's insanity. So if you do the same thing 3 times and it gives you the same result, well, try another thing instead of trying the same thing. So instead of doing that, they went and started meditating and so on. And one day they woke up with that internal voice telling them, today we are finding a house. Okay, not much there still, but they had the intuition to, instead of looking for things online, they actually went to the city with a paper and started distributing the thing and talking to people, going to bars or whatever to try and find the house. Okay, they did everything they could up until the moment that they were coming back home. Well, they had a choice to go left, go to the car, and go back home. But at that moment, that voice, same voice from the morning, came again and said, go right. So instead of going left and coming home, they just had an intuition, go right. Well, they actually listened to that, which is another point. You should ask the AI, but then listen to it. But anyways, they went right. They found like an agency, and then, well, long story short, the agency had a home. They visited it the next day, and 3 days afterwards, they had the keys. So basically, all that hassle for months for the thing to be done in like basically a split second compared to that. So again, it can be a voice, it can be a smell, it can be an image, it can be anything, even external things, which there's no such thing as external, but it's not going to be necessarily a you signal or the you that you think you are. Anyways, the more you practice doing this, the better you're getting. So you gotta practice. And the better you prompt, just like the AI, the better answers you get. So sometimes, for example, instead of asking, oh, why can't I do this? Or, when will this happen? And so on. Try and be more assertive with the questions. So instead of saying, for example, will I do this? Or if you have like a health problem, like, what's going on there and so on, just ask, like, what's the solution? If you want to do something, instead of asking, will this happen, just ask, how can I do this? And then you're going to be presented with a way of doing it. Sometimes it's going to be super challenging, and you may think to yourself, well, it's not really that worth. Okay, that's fine. But unless you do the question assertively, it's going to be harder. Again, you got to be very clever there with the questions. But for the beginning, just make them. Just like with any AI, just make the question. Sometimes you're going to get a sufficient answer and problem solved anyway. So it's a very subtle thing, but again, remember, anything that is created outside is a mirror from whatever's inside. We are the technology. Not only this body, but all the other bodies. Emotions, thoughts, images, and so on. This is but a system mapping this. So anything that you see outside of you exists inside of you. You have your own universe inside of you. That's why the answers are there to anything, really. Even to things that you didn't know, you know. Okay? It's just that obviously it's going to be harder to understand those if you don't have the vocabulary, let's say, which is why you need to first start fetching for the knowledge, understanding it, and then it will be easier to get things. But still, the thing's there. So the more you practice, the more, in the present moment you are, because that's another thing. You cannot ask the question if you're just an automata, a robot, going day by day, doing the same things over and over and over. You gotta break from that cycle, wake up, and then, okay, now I can make the prompts, now I can make the questions. So if you're watching this video, it's very likely that you're already breaking or broke from the cycle. So keep going, maintain it. It's not the easiest thing, we all struggle with that. Doesn't matter how practiced you are. You gotta keep doing it day by day, being awake, being vigilant, because it's easy to just fall over and keep doing same things, what's comfortable, and so on and so forth. So I hope you found this video interesting. I'm Matt Mora, Kabbalist. I also talk about astrology, tarot, numerology, all the other things, but Kabbalah is the main system. Make sure to follow me here on Twitter, which I also do weekly spaces on similar topics with some friends of mine. Those are a little bit more advanced, but still nonetheless cool to hang out. You can make questions there and so on. It's all live there. We also record them. But you can make sure to follow me there. Instagram, TikTok. There's also my website with some apps, some interesting things to look at. And if you have any video suggestions, make sure to let them here in the comments. That's it for today, and see you next time.